It was an unbelievable scene in Cambridge Saturday afternoon when several blocks were consumed by a 10-alarm fire less than a mile from where I live. The good news, no one was seriously injured. Cambridge Fire Chief Gerald Reardon called that miraculous. But the human cost is still high, as 125 people no longer have a place to call home. Huge flames consumed some cars as well. It appears the fire may have started in a three-story house on Berkshire Street that was in the process of being renovated. In total, 16 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Today, residents of the area were invited to City Hall to find out what assistance is available to them.
No, we have nothing, so we have to rebuild, everything that we lost.
I think everybody is still in shock, I guess. It looks like a war zone down there, and they're kind of going to be, buildings are coming down. The neighborhood, in some respect, is never going to look the same.
$200,000 was raised in just 24 hours to help the victims. The total is now approaching $400,000. So far, the community response has been heartening, but can also make you wonder why some tragedies draw this type of response and others do not. Joining me now are Cambridge Mayor Denise Simmons. Mayor, it's good to see you. And David Gerzoff-Richard, an Emerson College professor who specializes in social media. David, it's good to see you, too. What's the total up to now?
We're very close to 400,000.
And you originally set, and this is your doing with some of your colleagues, but you spearheaded this thing. Originally, the goal was 200 grand, correct?
We thought that was a good start, not knowing what we would really need, but.
And is Cambridge, I serve with you on the city council, but has Cambridge ever raised this much money for an event like this?
I would say we have never raised this much this quickly, because we're talking about 3 days.
So why? What do you think there was about this and the campaign you put together that elicited this kind of tsunami-like response so quickly?
I think in parts of the season. We're right around the holidays. People start thinking about themselves, their own families. It's the spirit of giving and, gee, what if it were me and how can I help?
Why do some campaigns like this work unbelievably well and other comparable campaigns, nickels and dimes, if that?
It's a set of ingredients that make it either work or fail. And there's no one silver bullet that makes it work here, work there. You've got things like the Ice Bucket Challenge, takes off. Other ones don't. I think that we're tapping into something certainly with the seasonality. It's the time of giving, but also there's the scale. You've got 16 buildings, 125 people. This made the news everywhere, and that jumped the rails onto social media. And people just keep following up. And if we have a quiet news cycle, it jumps back to social media, and the stories about the fundraising becomes news itself.
You both mentioned the time of year, and I was looking up some approximate time of year situations. Last Christmas, the day after Christmas, I would argue pretty sympathetic time too. 16 people displaced in Dorchester. Their goal was $20,000, 1/10 of what your goal was. They raised $1,800. $1,800 as compared to a $200,000 goal here, where you've already more than almost doubled it. So there's got to be something more here than time of year. Obviously, there's been a huge amount of focus. But when I read the story today, I remember this fire. It was almost a year ago. I remember the fire, not quite as grand as this one. So is there more to it? Cambridge, some kind of different? By the way, do you know what percentage of the contributions are from people who live in Cambridge? You don't know?
We really can't tell. We're not tracking that data. Okay. But it's the level of the devastation. It was on social media, but it was on the media. If you saw the flames,
too, by the way.
The flames were scary enough. My family were calling me, and from as far away as Georgia, how are you? Are you okay? So I think it was just the visual aspect of it as well.
So is there a moral to this? For those who do encounter tragedies like this, obviously you can't replicate what Denise Simmons is talking about. You can't create national media out of something that isn't. But are there lessons for other people trying to raise money for those who have been harmed, whose lives have been damaged, that are replicable, if you know what I mean?
Certainly. It's about storytelling. It's certainly about tapping into the heart and souls of the people that are tuned in, whether it is traditional media or social media. To go back to your point on the day after Christmas versus right now people are still around. People, they've just had Thanksgiving, they've come back. A lot of people travel over the holidays. A lot of people are with their families. They're not turning the TV on. They're not tuned in.
But there's certain things that are sympathetic. I mean, I remember at the time, and by the way, this is surely not to minimize the tragedy. Probably the greatest fundraising of this sort that's ever been done is after the Boston Marathon bombing a couple of years ago. $80 million. $80 million was raised for One Fund Boston, as it was called. And there were some wonderful people, and I have a feeling both of you may know some, who were from other parts of Boston, who said, my son was murdered 6 months ago. I couldn't afford the amount of money to put him in a suitable grave and give him a suit. There's certain things that are sympathetic and certain things that, does that not bother you? Well, this is a tremendous accomplishment. I know you're a socially conscious person. I've known you for a long time. Does it bother you that some people are the fortunate beneficiaries after a tragedy of the public largesse and others are just sort of ignored?
It's always unfortunate. Some causes or individuals or group of people get more than the other. I try not to get and go in that place. I'm really focused on what's happening right now, and I think Cambridge is a very interesting kind of place.
How so?
We're in the custom of giving. We're in the custom of being a community. When we had the disaster in Haiti, the office was full with clothing and people calling, can we send food and what can we do? And so I think it's the culture as well. For me, I would say it's the culture of Cambridge that wants to give and all hands in all the time.
How do you decide who's getting what out of this, by the way? I mean, obviously the One Boston thing, there was a special master, the most famous Ken Feinberg, obviously, who's done a lot of huge things. Who's deciding and how is it decided?
So what we're doing is we're working with the Red Cross. The Red Cross was on the ground immediately, and they've done a lot of intake. We're taking that intake that the Red Cross did on Saturday and Sunday. We're putting that together with what we're doing now. And then over a period of time, we're making a list and making it so that we'll give an X amount to each family. For instance, each family right now can come and get a Target card for $100 and a Star shopping card for $100. It's one per person.
Just to tide them over.
Just to tide them over. It's one per person to up to 4 people in the family.
Getting back to the equity thing, and I understand totally what the mayor is saying. I got to focus on this now. If there was a GoFundMe page, let's say after this is over, in Cambridge where there is this great empathy, and said, let's create a fund for the next people who suffer, they wouldn't raise much money. It's the storytelling, as you say,
100% the storytelling, yes. It's how it's presented, it's the time of year, it's all of it. It's that set of ingredients that make it go from 1x to 10x to 100x.
Because that could be me or that could be somebody I care about. There's got to be that connection, correct?
Yeah.
Fair enough, Mayor. Well done, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope
Thank
this
you.
continues to succeed. Nice to see you, too.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.